I'm Talia Ricci. Tonight, as we enter a new year, Ontario brings back old restrictions.
Omicron spreads like wildfire.
Indoor dining, theaters, and gyms are shutting down once again. We'll have plenty of reaction for you tonight. Plus,
when you have both parents working from home trying to manage two young kids, I think both situations fail.
the province moves schools online for at least 2 more weeks, citing a shortage of staff due to COVID-19. And
there's a little bit less fear, but there's a whole lot more exhaustion.
a familiar feeling of frustration, why experts' concerns around the impact of lockdowns are growing. Good evening. We'll get to those stories in just a minute, but we start with breaking news from Etobicoke tonight, where a shooting has left 1 person dead and 2 more injured. It happened just before 9 o'clock in the area of Lakeshore Boulevard West and 30th Street, just west of Kipling. Police located 3 victims with gunshot wounds at the scene. They say 2 of the victims are male and 1 female. They were rushed to hospital with serious injuries. Police later confirmed that 1 of them died. The investigation has now been turned over to the homicide unit. No suspect information has been released. The province announced several new public health restrictions today, including remote learning for at least 2 weeks. Officials say the surge of new COVID-19 cases threatens to fill every hospital bed in Ontario within a week. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has more.
A new year at Queen's Park with a new surge of COVID-19 unlike anything the province has seen. Inside, the Premier delivers a blunt warning. Brace for impact.
We're going to get hit like a tsunami.
The province's health agency forecasts that within a week or 2, Ontario's hospitals will have more patients than beds and too few staff to take care of them.
The report, I was told that we could see hundreds of thousands of cases. Let's be conservative. Let's say 100,000 cases or 200,000. That's a day.
Even if Ontario is seeing just 50,000 new infections a day, and even with Omicron's low hospitalization rate, that would soon mean 500 more people needing a hospital bed every day. That's twice as high as the pandemic record.
Over the last week or so, a lot of my colleagues started seeing patients who were sick and being admitted with COVID into the hospital, both onto the wards and into the ICU. And now, as we predicted, I think there's going to be a huge, exponential rise in that. So I think that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're really going to be hit hard.
So to try to lessen the impact on hospitals, the government is doing pretty much what it did a year ago, shutting down indoor service at restaurants and bars, closing gyms and movie theaters, and limiting indoor gatherings to 5 people. All that takes effect just after midnight tomorrow night and will last for at least 3 weeks.
Now these decisions will disappoint people, they will confuse some people, and they will anger some people. I understand all those reactions.
Classes for Ontario's 2 million school kids go online for at least 2 weeks. The rationale? That otherwise there'd be turmoil, with schools getting shut abruptly as cases spread.
These are the hardest decisions I make, but we follow the data. And the fact is this: Omicron spreads like wildfire.
The question now is whether these measures will work.
I appreciate the concern about not having our hospitals overwhelmed, but I didn't see a clear plan as to how these pieces will go together to help us weather the storm for the next 2-3 weeks.
That storm is not just going to hit hospitals, but wherever you work. Whether it's people calling in sick with COVID or having to isolate because of exposure, Ontario's chief medical officer predicts that workplace absenteeism in the coming weeks will hit 20 to 30%. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, if 20 to 30% of teachers were absent, that could cause chaos in schools. And it's one of the reasons the province says students will be back to virtual learning as of Wednesday. As Ali Chiasson reports, the last-minute change has sent some families scrambling again.
Schools are essential!
This is a pandemic, so going to the grocery store isn't really safe. Going to the pharmacy isn't really safe. But we do those things because they're necessary, and school is necessary too.
When you have both parents working from home trying to manage two young kids, I think both situations fail. You don't do very well at your work, and you don't do very well with your kids.
To the disappointment of parents protesting outside, inside Queen's Park, Premier Doug Ford would announce,
We'll be delaying the return to in-class learning for the next 2 weeks and continue with virtual learning for the duration of the time away.
a complete 180 from the announcement only 4 days ago when parents were told schools would be open. Ford says they're closing schools not because they're unsafe, but with cases potentially exploding into hundreds of thousands, absenteeism will be a problem.
I want to provide students and parents with certainty, not the turmoil of school closures because not enough staff are available to teach our kids.
For parents and school children, it's been 2 years of turmoil. Today's announcement has mother of three Joy Henderson feeling,
like many parents, exasperated. You know, my two oldest children, you know, they haven't had a normal high school career. Socialization, building connections and social networks within peer groups, right? These are key impacts that our students are having.
Yes, we should be sending kids back to school, but of course we should be sending the kids back to safe schools. Right?
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh brings up a good point. What will the government do with these extra 2 weeks? He would suggest
better masks, good ventilation and better ventilation in the schools, priority vaccination for everybody in the building, including educators and administrators, but of course students as well.
Classroom instruction can continue for special needs students unable to learn at home. For everyone else in the public and private school sector, virtual school will be back until at least January 17th. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A number of businesses will have to modify operations or just close up shop when restrictions kick in on Wednesday. Restaurants, bars, and food courts will be shutting down. For anyone willing to brave the cold, outdoor dining is allowed. Gyms are being closed along with all indoor sports and recreational programs. Outdoor facilities can operate at 50%. Personal care services and retail are permitted to operate at 50% capacity. Today's announcement is yet another big hit for small business owners who say they need help now more than ever. Greg Ross has that part of our coverage tonight.
Just feeling defeated, I guess.
That was Carl Pratt's reaction after learning he will have to close his restaurant, Beaches Brewing Company, once again.
It's just wave after wave and lockdown after lockdown. Kind of saps you of motivation to keep going.
He's not alone.
It's a little bit demoralizing, you know, because here we are back in the same lockdown that we were last year, and I think we all thought we were out of this.
Steve Lachelt owns Cardio Go Gym downtown. He was just gearing up for his busiest time of the year.
January is the time, right? We have to be prepared and organized, and all of that preparation has now taken a complete 180.
Restaurants and gyms have been some of the hardest hit businesses since the start of the pandemic.
Toronto restaurants have been locked down for 400 days. Gyms in Toronto have been locked down for 395 days.
Dan Kelly is the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. He says the latest restrictions from the province may also come with some of the most serious consequences.
Thousands of businesses are just not going to survive this additional round of lockdowns.
Retailers who are able to stay open will have to continue to try and get by with limited capacities.
It is better than nothing.
Tex Thomas owns Pro League Sports. He managed to get through the holidays with limited capacity, which he says is far better than not having customers in his shop at all.
It means a lot that we can actually have customers walk through the front door, come out from the cold, and actually do some shopping.
The province also offered more help to businesses affected by the restrictions, but details are still being worked out.
A lot of these subsidies sort of get announced after the fact, and you sit on pins and needles for a couple weeks, hoping that something comes through.
Businesses need money in their pockets today if they're going to survive, if they're going to be able to pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their suppliers.
In the meantime, Pratt says he'll do his best to make ends meet with as much takeout business as he can get. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, hearing news of more restrictions entering the third year of this pandemic is difficult for many. It has experts sounding the alarm about the mental health and wider impacts of lockdowns. Dahlia Ashry explains.
A new year, and in a matter of a few days, a new lockdown.
I wish it would stop so that everything will just continue moving the way it's supposed to be, yeah.
And in a sit-down interview with Rosie Barton last month, the Prime Minister reminding us this new variant doesn't care about feelings.
Omicron doesn't care if we're tired of restrictions.
But people do care. This local psychology professor says even if Canadians have become pandemic veterans, COVID fatigue still exists.
So there's part of us that knows we can get to the other side, I think. So there's a little bit less fear, but there's a whole lot more exhaustion.
Jordan says although it feels like Groundhog Day to many people, the pandemic is impacting their mental health.
He might be okay.
I feel like my mental health has been affected. I've been feeling more sad recently.
Jordan says the new wave is more personal. More people at this point could know at least one person in their circle that has been infected by Omicron and are feeling helpless.
If you haven't felt anxiety, if you haven't woken up some mornings with a little bit of depression in your mind, I think you're abnormal.
Dr. Kwadwo Karamanting is an ICU and palliative care physician in Ottawa.
You know, when an 18-year-old could get a vaccine ahead of a 70-year-old, like that's an issue, you know, like, and so like bring interventions to the population that is most likely to benefit.
Dr. Karamanting says he's disappointed with the recent move by the province. He worries about the long-term effects that the restrictions could have on society. He says a better framework to exit the pandemic is needed.
The impact of having less access to education, less access to quality food, like this is what we see on a daily basis, how socioeconomics directly impacts health.
Jordan says flush your body with positive hormones, participate in some feel-good activities moving forward.
Karaoke night with your family. Sing the songs your kids like. Let them laugh at you trying to do Drake or something like that. You know, if they're laughing and if people are singing, that's a really powerful medicine.
Dahlia Ashtree, CBC News, Toronto.
In other news tonight, if you spent any time outside today, then you know it's cold. Toronto is under an extreme cold weather alert. It was issued by the city in response to the forecast, which saw temperatures drop as low as -20 with the wind chill this morning. Warming centers are open, and the city is also recommending taking indoor breaks to warm up if you're spending long periods outside. Meteorologist Nick Sternkovich joins us now with a look at the forecast, and today really felt like the coldest day we've had so far this winter.
Yeah, Talia, we've really been seeing this Arctic chill move into the GTA. We had temperatures last night down to -15. Even today, the high was about -7, and there's a look at some of the daytime highs across the province. So very cold weather in place with the winds, the wind chills in the minus double digits throughout the day today. Now, as we head through tonight, we're looking at similar temperatures. This under generally clear skies. Moving into tomorrow, though, we've got increasing cloud cover through the afternoon, and then as we head through tomorrow night into Wednesday, we've got another system making its way into the GTA, and this one is going to bring with it some wet flurries. And I say wet flurries because that means warming temperatures. So -7 degrees through the overnight period tonight. We'll see temperatures sort of holding steady. +2 degrees tomorrow with some sunshine in the morning and increasing cloud cover. Still looking at a morning wind chill, though, of about -10 before the warm-up. And we've got a couple days of that warm weather before it cools down again. We'll have your full 5-day forecast coming up in just a bit. Talia.
Thanks, Nick. We're hearing from the family of the teenager who was killed after a two-car collision in downtown Toronto on Boxing Day. 18-year-old Kian McKenzie died in hospital on New Year's Day. 7 other people were injured in the crash. It happened at Yonge and Richmond at about 2 p.m. on December 26th when 2 vehicles collided, sending one of them onto the sidewalk and into a group of pedestrians. In a statement, the teen's family says, "We not only mourn the loss of a wonderful young man cut down at the prime of his life, but the many contributions he would have made to the world with his kindness, generous spirit, and intellect. We hope this serves as a reminder that we have a long way to go to make sure pedestrians and cyclists are safe in our cities." Police say the investigation into the collision is ongoing. An Ontario court has awarded more than $100 million to the families of 6 victims in the Ukrainian airline disaster. The judge ruled Iran committed an act of international terrorism when it shot down Flight 752 almost 2 years ago. 176 people died that day, most of them Canadian citizens and permanent residents. The lawyer for the plaintiff says his team will look to seize Iranian assets in Canada and abroad to make sure the families are paid. Welcome back. A Toronto pharmacy ran a special vaccine clinic today, meant exclusively for teachers, school staff, or anyone else who works with students.
So today we're very simply doing a walk-in day for teachers so we can protect them as best as possible before school starts again, and so we could ensure the schools are open and safe. The response has been very well received, thankfully, and hopefully my hope is that other pharmacies and clinics pick up and do the same thing.
People who qualified for the clinic faced a long wait as they lined up in the bitter cold. The pharmacy was giving out first, second, and third doses. The owner says he's happy to step up, but is disappointed by what he calls the government's lack of action with the vaccine rollout for priority groups. More than 500,000 Torontonians rolled up their sleeves for a COVID-19 vaccine last month. The city says in December, 650,000 first, second, and third doses were administered, and 32,000 appointments are already booked for adults at clinics for the first full week of the new year. Well, imagine a 4-day work week for the same pay. It's an idea that's gained traction in recent months, especially as a pandemic has some people reevaluating what's important. Some employers have already revamped the traditional work week. Lisa Shing has more.
There was some feedback we got about how having only one Friday off in January is not that different than having a holiday, but for parents, it is really, really different.
For the last decade, Juneau College has been teaching people tech and web skills to help them advance their new careers. Come the new year, its 45 employees will gradually be working Monday to Thursday.
This past summer, I had a little bit of an epiphany, I guess you could say, about what's important in life and what really matters. And prior to that, I was really pointing the company in sort of an aggressive growth target. We wanted to be the fastest growing and be the biggest. And this past summer, I just kind of realized maybe that's not what matters the most.
Staff will start by working one 4-day week in January, then 2 in February, and 3 in March. They won't be working any more hours in that time, nor will they be making any less.
Honestly seems like the right thing to do, and it's something that I want for my own life as well.
Other employers are also making a change. Zora Township, east of London, just wrapped up a pilot where its staff worked 4 days a week and an hour extra per day.
Everybody seems to have embraced it. It's a more relaxed atmosphere. There's just something about it that just makes people happier to come to work.
The idea of working 4 days has been around for some time, but has just picked up steam again in recent years, likely because of the pandemic. This human resources professor says everyone benefits.
I think it will increase productivity because employees are going to think that the employers are taking care of them. They're giving them a day off, and they really want to get things done in the 4 days so that they don't have to work the 5th day.
Yap says this idea requires employers to set an example so staff aren't reaching for their phones or turning on their computers on that day off. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a live look at our chilly city. A few clouds tonight, feeling like -15 with the wind chill. Nick's back now with our extended forecast. I know you mentioned a warm up, but I wouldn't mind if that sunshine we got today stuck around too.
Yeah, I think everybody would like a little bit of sunshine. Unfortunately, a lot of times the sun in the winter also comes with colder weather as well. So as the temperatures start to warm, we see a shift in that pattern. What we're looking at is some cloud cover moving in. Here's a look at your weather headlines. Another cold night tonight, but then we get a bit of a midweek warm up and a windy Wednesday as well. This all with our next weather maker that's moving into the GTA. What you can expect here through the next 24 hours, really just some increase in cloud cover. Morning sunshine tomorrow, so that's That's our first and only hint to sun. And then as we head through the afternoon, we've got increasing cloud cover. Milder temperatures, though, just above the 0 mark as this system approaches. In advance of it, we've got gusty winds as well on Wednesday. And look for some wet flurries there. So you'll see through Wednesday some flurries to the north, perhaps even a few centimeters of accumulating snow. But right down along the lake and around the Golden Horseshoe, I think we're going to see either some wet flurries or a few rain showers throughout the afternoon. And then temperatures begin to drop in behind this as the front moves through. So in terms of the snowfall, we're really not looking at a lot. To the north, a handful of centimeters there, as much as about 5, 6, 7 centimeters or so up around areas in the ski country. But as we head down toward the GTA, really just trace, if anything. And again, I think that's going to be mixed with some rain showers as well on Wednesday. Now, winds will be sort of up and down about 20 to 30 kilometers per hour over the next 24 hours. But Wednesday's the one to watch. As the system pushes through just in advance of the front, we're looking at wind gusts that'll be in the 70, perhaps even 80 kilometer per hour mark for some areas around the Golden Horseshoe. So pretty windy Wednesday in the forecast. For tonight, look for temperatures down in southwestern Ontario around -6, -7, just above the 0 mark for tomorrow, and a mix of sun and cloud. As we move through the Golden Horseshoe, we're looking at temperatures around -7, -8 degrees, and then into tomorrow, looking at highs of about +1 or +2. In the next 5 days, this is what it looks like. 2 and 1 for Tuesday and Wednesday. There's our warm-up. But look at the overnight lows. They start to dip. A front moves through here. We've got dropping temperatures right through until the weekend. Talia.
Thanks, Nick. Finally tonight, a group of Chinese dogs are settling into new homes this week. The plane load of 40 dogs was brought to Canada on New Year's Eve by a group called No Dogs Left Behind. It brings dogs from Asia who otherwise might have been used for meat. Most of the dogs brought over this past weekend have already been adopted, but some are still looking for new homes.
So this is Pepe. She is available for adoption. She came from a dog meat trafficker in February of this year. So we just brought her over yesterday, and she is looking for her forever home.
So cute. The organization says it partners with activists on the ground in Asia to get the animals out. Some of the rescued dogs will stay in Canada while others will quarantine here before heading to families in the U.S. The group says a total of 150 dogs have been flown to Canada since the end of October. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Good night.